day you make countless small choices. Some are so tiny you barely notice them, deciding to get out of bed on time, choosing to drink water instead of soda, or taking a moment to pause before reacting in a stressful situation. These choices might seem insignificant in isolation, but what if I told you that each one is actually a vote for the person you want to become? Think about that for a moment. Every action you take, no matter how small, is like casting a ballot in an election where the winner is your future self. When you choose to act in a way that aligns with your goals and values, you're voting for that version of yourself to grow stronger. When you skip those actions or fall back into old patterns, you're casting a vote for the identity you want to leave behind. This idea is powerful because it shifts how you view habits. Habits aren't just routines or tasks on your to-do list. They are the building blocks of your identity, the story you tell yourself about who you are and who you can become. And the best part, you have control over this process. Imagine your future self as the sum total of all these votes. If you consistently cast votes for the person who is disciplined, kind, or healthy, over time that person becomes your reality. The votes accumulate, shaping your beliefs, your confidence, and your actions. But here's the catch. Change doesn't happen overnight. It's not about making giant leaps or drastic transformations all at once. Instead, it's about the small, consistent choices you make every day. These tiny habits might feel too small to matter, but they are the seeds that grow into lasting change. For example, think about someone who wants to be more patient. Instead of trying to become perfectly patient immediately, they start by practicing a simple habit, taking a deep breath before responding when frustrated. That small pause is a vote for patience. Each time they do it, they reinforce that identity. Over weeks and months, this tiny habit reshapes how they react. Naturally, this video will guide you through how your habits shape your identity and how your identity shapes your habits. You'll learn why focusing on identity, not just goals, is the key to lasting change, and how you can start casting your votes today with small, manageable habits. So ask yourself, what kind of person do you want to become? What small choice can you make right now that will help you move in that direction? Because every vote counts. And every small habit is a step toward becoming the person you truly want to be. Let's dive in. When we think about habits, it's easy to see them as simple actions, brushing your teeth, exercising, or checking your phone. But habits are much more than just behaviors. They are the foundation of your identity. Every habit you perform sends a message to your brain about who you are. Over time, these repeated messages build the story you tell yourself about your identity. To help you visualize this, imagine your identity as a garden. Each habit you practice is a seed planted in this garden. Some seeds grow into beautiful flowers, positive traits and behaviors that make your life better. Others, if neglected or watered by negative actions, become weeds that choke out growth and hold you back. For example, if you consistently hit the snooze button in the morning, skip breakfast, and rush through your day feeling stressed, you are watering the "I'm not a morning person" seed. Your brain takes notice of these repeated behaviors and reinforces the belief that this is who you are. Over time, this belief becomes your identity, making it harder to change because your brain seeks consistency and wants to protect the story it knows. But what if you started small? Instead of trying to change your entire morning routine at once, what if you focused on one tiny habit, like sitting up as soon as your alarm goes off? This small action is a vote for a new identity. I am a morning person. Each time you repeat it, you strengthen that identity. Your brain begins to accept this new story, and gradually your habits start to align with it. This is why small habits are so powerful. They don't just change what you do, they change who you believe you are. Your identity shapes your habits, but your habits also shape your identity. It's a two-way street, a feedback loop that can either trap you in old patterns or propel you toward growth. Another way to think about this is that habits are the proof you give yourself about your identity. If you want to be a healthy person, every healthy choice you make, like drinking water instead of soda or going for a walk, is evidence that supports that identity. If you want to be a creative person, every time you pick up a pen or open your laptop to write, you're reinforcing that identity. This means that lasting change isn't about sudden transformations or willpower alone. It's about the small, consistent votes you cast every day through your habits. Over time, these votes accumulate, and your identity shifts to match the person you want to become. So the key to transforming your life is to start by changing your habits, one small, manageable action at a time. Focus on the process of becoming rather than just the outcome you want to achieve. When you do this, your identity and your habits will work together to create lasting change. Now we'll explore how your identity also shapes your habits, the other side of this powerful relation, and how understanding this can help you overcome resistance and build sustainable transformation. The relationship between identity and habits is not one-sided. It's a dynamic, two-way street. While your habits shape your identity also plays a crucial role in determining which habits you adopt and maintain. Understanding this reciprocal connection is essential for creating lasting change. Your identity acts as a lens through which your brain filters decisions and behaviors. When a habit aligns with your self-perception, it feels natural and requires less effort. Conversely, if a habit conflicts with your identity, it feels forced and difficult to sustain. This happens because your brain is wired to seek consistency. It wants your actions to match your beliefs about who you are. When there's a mismatch, your brain triggers resistance to protect your current identity. This resistance can feel like procrastination, excuses, or lack of motivation, but it's actually your brain's way of maintaining stability. Recognizance helps explain why many people struggle to change despite strong intentions. Simply wanting to adopt a new habit isn't enough if it clashes with your existing identity. For example, someone who sees themselves as not athletic will find it hard to start exercising regularly because the new habit contradicts their self-belief. The good news is that identity is not fixed. It can be reshaped gradually through consistent, small actions that reinforce a new self dimension. By focusing on becoming the type of person who embodies the habits you want, you reduce internal resistance and make change more sustainable. To apply this, start by clearly defining the identity you want to build. Instead of focusing solely on outcomes like losing weight or saving money, focus on the underlying identity. I am a healthy person, or I am a responsible saver. This shift in focus changes how you approach habits, making them feel like natural expressions of who you are rather than chores or obligations. Once you have a clear identity in mind, choose small habits that align with it. These habits act as evidence to your brain, gradually reinforcing the new identity. Over time, as your self-image grows, strengthens, adopting and maintaining related habits becomes easier and more automatic. In summary, identity shapes habits by influencing what feels natural and sustainable. When your habits align with your identity, they require less effort and become part of your routine. By consciously cultivating an identity that supports your goals, you create a positive feedback loop that drives lasting transformation. Many people approach change by setting specific goals. Lose 10 pounds, write a book, or save a certain amount of money. While goals provide direction, they often fail to produce lasting change because they focus on outcomes rather than the underlying identity that sustains behavior. The key difference between goal-based and identity-based change lies in what drives your actions. Goals are external targets: finish a project, hit a number on the scale. But identity is internal. It's the deep-rooted belief about who you are. And your habits are rooted in identity. They become part of your self-concept, making them more resilient to setbacks and fluctuations in motivation. Why does identity-based change work better? Because identity shapes your behavior at a fundamental level. When you see yourself as a certain kind of person, your brain naturally aligns your habits to support that identity. This alignment reduces internal conflict and makes habits feel like a natural extension of who you are, rather than burdensome tasks. For example, consider the difference between someone who says, "I want to run a marathon," versus someone who says, "I am a runner." The first person focuses on a goal, running a marathon, which might feel distant or overwhelming. The second person embraces an identity that guides daily choices, running regularly, eating well, and prioritizing recovery. This identity provides ongoing motivation and consistency beyond any single goal. And another important aspect is that goals are often finite while identity is ongoing. Once you reach a goal, motivation can fade because the target has been achieved. But when your habits are tied to your identity, they become lifelong behaviors. You don't stop being a healthy person or a writer after hitting a milestone. You continue living in alignment with that identity. To build identity-based habits, start by clarifying the person you want to become. Ask yourself, what kind of person consistently shows up in the way I want to live? Then, focus on small, daily actions that reinforce this identity. These actions serve as evidence to your brain, strengthening your self-belief and making the identity more real. It's also important to be patient. Identity change doesn't happen overnight. It requires repetition and consistency. Each small habit is like a vote cast for your new identity. Over time, these votes accumulate, and your brain rewires itself to support the new story you're telling. Finally, identity-based habits help you overcome common pitfalls of goal setting, such as burnout or loss of motivation. When your habits are identity-driven, you're less likely to give up because you're not just chasing a number or achievement, you're becoming the person you want to be. In short, focusing on identity rather than just goals creates a strong foundation for lasting change. It aligns your habits with your self-mission, making behavior more automatic and sustainable. By committing to becoming the person you want to be, you set yourself up for success that goes beyond temporary results. Change is rarely easy. One of the biggest challenges when building new habits is overcoming the natural resistance that arises within you. This resistance often shows up as procrastination, self-doubt, or a sudden loss of motivation. Understanding why this happens and how to work with it is essential for staying consistent and making lasting progress. Resistance is a natural response from your brain. It's wired to protect your current identity and maintain stability. When you try to adopt a new habit that conflicts with your existing self-memory, your brain perceives it as a threat and pushes back. This is why, even with the best intentions, you might find yourself avoiding or sabotaging new behaviors. To overcome this resistance, the key is to start small. Large, drastic changes can feel overwhelming and trigger your brain's defense mechanisms. Instead, focus on tiny, manageable habits that feel achievable and low risk. These small wins build momentum and gradually reduce resistance. For example, if your goal is to start exercising regularly, begin by putting on your workout clothes each day. This simple action is easier to commit to and serves as a gateway to more significant activity. Over time, putting on those clothes becomes a cue that naturally leads to exercising, and the initial resistance diminishes. Another effective strategy is to design your environment to support your habits. By reducing friction and making the desired behavior easier, you lower the barrier to action. For instance, if you want to read more, keep a book on your nightstand instead of buried in a pile. When the habit is convenient, resistance has less power. Mindset also plays a critical role. Instead of viewing resistance as failure or weakness, reframe it as a natural part of the growth process. Expect setbacks and understand that they don't define your journey. This compassionate perspective helps you stay committed even when progress feels slow. Consistency is more important than perfection. It's better to do a habit imperfectly every day than to do it perfectly once and then quit. Small, consistent actions compound over time and lead to meaningful change. Tracking your progress can also boost consistency. When you see visual evidence of your efforts, such as marking off days on a calendar, it reinforces your commitment and motivates you to keep going. Finally, find accountability and support. Sharing your goals with a friend or joining a community can provide encouragement and make you less likely to give up. Knowing someone else is rooting for you adds an extra layer of motivation. Finally, resistance is a natural and expected part of change. By starting small, designing your environment, adopting a growth mindset, focusing on consistency, tracking progress, and seeking support, you can overcome resistance and build lasting habits. Remember, transformation is a journey made up of many small, persistent steps. When you start building new habits, it's easy to focus only on the immediate changes they bring, but the true power of habits lies in the ripple effect, the way one small habit can influence many other areas of your life, creating a cascade of positive transformations. Think of a single habit as a pebble dropped into a still pond. The initial splash is small, but the ripples spread far and wide, touching parts of the pond you never expected. Similarly, when you cultivate one positive habit, it often leads to improvements in other habits, mindset, and even relationships. For example, imagine you start a simple habit of writing down 3 things you're grateful for every morning. This habit might seem minor, but over time, it can shift your overall mindset. You begin to notice more positive aspects of your life, which reduces stress and increases happiness. This improved mindset can lead to better interactions with others, more energy to pursue goals, and greater resilience during challenges. This ripple effect happens because habits are interconnected. One habit often triggers or supports another. When you improve in one area, it creates momentum that makes it easier to improve in others. This is why focusing on small, manageable habits can lead to profound, lasting change. And another example is adopting a daily habit of drinking water first thing in the morning. This simple action can increase your energy levels and improve your physical health. Feeling more energized might motivate you to exercise, eat healthier, or get better sleep. Suddenly, one small habit has influenced multiple aspects of your lifestyle. Understanding the ripple effect helps you prioritize habits that have the greatest potential to impact your life positively. Instead of trying to change everything at once, focus on a few key habits that will naturally lead to other improvements. It's also important to recognize that the ripple effect works both ways. Negative habits can spread and affect other areas of your life if left unchecked. For instance, consistently skipping sleep can lead to poor concentration, mood swings, and unhealthy eating. That's why addressing even small negative habits is crucial. To harness the ripple effect, start by identifying one small habit aligned with the identity you want to build. Commit to it daily and observe how it influences other parts of your life. Celebrate the small wins and be patient as the ripples expand. Remember, transformation is rarely sudden. It's the accumulation of many small, consistent actions that create meaningful change. By focusing on the ripple effect, you empower yourself to build momentum and sustain progress over time. Now that you understand how habits and identity are deeply connected and how small, consistent actions can transform your life, it's time to take action. The most important step toward lasting change is to cast your first vote for the person you want to become. Ask yourself, what is one small habit I can start today that aligns with the identity I want to build? This habit doesn't have to be big or complicated. In fact, the smaller and more manageable it is, the better. Remember, transformation is a journey made up of many tiny steps, not giant leaps. For example, if you want to become a more organized person, your first habit might be as simple as spending 2 minutes each morning tidying your workspace. If you want to be healthier, it could be drinking a glass of water right after you wake up. If you want to be more mindful, start with 1 minute of focused breathing daily. The key is consistency. These small habits, repeated day after day, are the votes that shape your identity. Over time, they build momentum and create a positive feedback loop, making it easier to adopt more habits that support your vision of yourself. Take a moment now to reflect on your current habits. Which ones are supporting the identity you want? Which ones might be holding you back? Awareness is the first step toward change. By recognizing the habits that don't serve you, you can begin to replace them with ones that do. I encourage you to write down your chosen habit and commit to it for the next 30 days. Track your progress in a journal or app. Celebrate your consistency, no matter how small the steps. Remember, progress is progress. Also, consider sharing your habit and goals with someone you trust or joining a community of like-minded individuals. Accountability and support can significantly increase your chances of success. Finally, keep in mind that setbacks are normal. Change is rarely a straight path. When you encounter obstacles, don't be discouraged. Instead, remind yourself of your identity and why you started. Each day is a new opportunity to cast your vote. You have the power to shape your identity through your habits. Start today by planting the seeds of the person you want to become. Your future self will thank you. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If you found this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe for more content on personal growth and transformation. And don't forget to comment below with the small habit you're starting today. I'd love to hear from you.